We're going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District to order at 9 a.m. on March 28, 2019. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Carr.
Here.
Daniels.
Here.
Frost.
Here.
Gaylord.
Here.
Guerra.
Here.
Hanson. Harris.
Here.
Kennedy. Lampson.
Here.
Lee. Natoli. Peters. Cerna.
Here.
Terry.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. If everyone could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. If the board clerk could please read the announcements.
The meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District is cablecast live without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T U-verse cable system. This meeting is being closed captioned and we webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated on Monday, March 30th at 2 p.m. and Monday, April 1st at noon on Channel 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker form located on the table at the back of the chambers and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Also, at this time, please silence your cell phones until conclusion of today's meeting.
Thank you very much. For housekeeping here, members, we're going to lose quorum at about 9:45 a.m. today. So we're going, for members of the public and the board, we're going to move the agenda a little differently. We're going to go ahead and take up the consent calendar, which are items 1 through 8, and then the discussion calendar. But then we're going to adjourn to closed session because we need to take some action. We'll come back after that for our air pollution control officer's report at that point, and then we'll continue the meeting with those who we have in attendance. With that, I'll ask the clerk if we could read the first item.
Okay. First item on the agenda is the consent calendar, items 1 through 8.
Great.
Move consent. Second.
There's been a motion and a second to move consent by Board Member Harris and Board Member Carr. Respectively. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Measure passes. We'll go ahead and ask the clerk to read the next item.
Next item on the calendar is the discussion calendar, and I have Stacy Springer, the Chief Executive Officer of Breathe California Sacramento Region, to give us an update. Stacy.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I want to thank you for allowing me to present this morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the projects that we have that we work on in partnership with the AQMD, and also to give you a little background for those of you who may not know us at Breathe California, tell you a little bit about who we are. So Breathe California is actually 102 years old this year. We were founded in 1917 as the Sacramento Society for the Prevention and Cure of Tuberculosis. And near the mid-century mark, when TB was no longer the health threat that it was in the early 1900s, our organization's leaders looked at expanding the scope from just TB to other lung health ailments, COPD, asthma, emphysema, lung cancer. So we are and identify ourselves as a public health nonprofit with our mission exclusively on lung health. And so today, our two areas of focus when we look at preventing lung disease are tobacco control and air quality. We are backed by a staff of 13 and growing. We have 60 plus regular student interns and volunteers who are with us weekly, in addition to 19 board members who are also community leaders, and another 500 plus volunteers and donors who share our mission goals of clean air and healthy lungs. We also, as Breathe California, have a statewide presence in both LA and the Bay Areas, And although we are statewide, we all maintain a local focus so that all of our fundraising and all of our efforts are kept in our local communities. So our history with the Air District actually predates the Air District. In fact, our organization led we were the champions behind forming an independent Air District here in Sacramento, and arrived the SMA QMD. And since that time, our organization has shared partnership, and we've worked on hundreds of projects and programs, including school programs, advocacy work, collaboratives, including the Cleaner Air Partnership, which we initiated years ago with the Sacramento Metro Chamber of Commerce, and extensive outreach and education programs. Also, as all of you know, our region has shared in a lot of great successes and accomplishments over that time, including, and I think most of us remember, the 1980s and what the air looked like. So the phasing out of rice straw burning has been a huge success for air quality. Other great successes requiring catalytic converters on light-duty vehicles, getting transit to the region. All of these things have really helped move the needle in the right direction. And although those are great accomplishments and everybody should be proud of the efforts taken, I think we can also agree there's a lot more left to do if we're going to meet our air quality standards. There are a few facts that our organization, it kind of fuels what we do, and I want to share some of these facts with you, and I think most of you might already know this, but I'll reiterate them anyway. Asthma is a leading chronic illness among children and adolescents in the entire United States. It's also the leading cause of school absenteeism. And since Sacramento is usually rated as one of the most polluted cities in the United States, and air pollution is one of the leading triggers for asthma, you can kind of do the math on that. Ozone is a corrosive gas. It actually burns the inner linings of the lungs, and this causes a plethora of different health issues, anything from basic wheezing to lung failure. Diabetes is now blaming its symptoms on poor air quality. Cognitive function is being related to poor air quality. And just this week, CNN Health ran a story about the connection possibility between poor air quality and teen psychosis. And although I have not read the science behind it, I'm going to imagine what they're alluding to there is the fact that what we breathe is affecting the brain. So there's no doubt about it in our minds that this is a true public health crisis with huge economic implications. Part of what we have ahead of us, too, is that in terms of improving air quality, some of the lower hanging fruit has already been plucked. And so now we're left with meeting these standards and transitioning to a different mode of thinking. And I think most people in this room do not represent the majority. We here are educated to the point of knowing what we can do about it. We care enough to do about it. We've been enlightened, and we're willing to make behavior changes to make that happen. But that does not represent a lot of the folks that are out there. In the communities that we work in and with, and both in tobacco and air quality, a lot of the folks are disadvantaged and low-income communities. Their focus is not on air quality. They haven't been enlightened onto how that affects their health. The bridge that we need to kind of cross with these folks is getting them to understand how this impacts them, and then giving them the tools to do something about it when their willingness is high and they are taking responsibility for the problem. So what I'd like to do is share with you some of the things that we work on to, and again, about 80% of what we do is in the disadvantaged low-income communities, although not all of the projects that I'll list are. So I'm going to start off with the community car share program, which is something that we piloted with the Air District. And this is, the goal of the community car share program is to increase access to zero emissions vehicles by enhancing clean mobility options to underserved communities. So what we've done is we've gone into some of the lower income communities. We have 15 cars placed at 7 different sites throughout the community. And these folks, and they're all clean mobility options, of course. And folks have, it's a membership-based program, so folks can sign up and then they have access to these vehicles. There's time limits on them, but they can do everything from getting their kids to the doctor, driving them to school, running errands. So it's giving them transportation options that are clean. And for the few that don't have or can't apply for a membership, whether it's that they don't have a driver's license, they have maybe physical handicaps that prevent them from driving, or there's some other issue that prevents membership, we have coming down the pipeline ride hail, which is kind of a first and last mile approach to getting these folks to transit options. We also do our ride and drives, which is encouraging and actually an education program that gets the EV concepts and principles and incentive programs out there to not just disadvantaged communities, but to a wide variety of folks. So these ride and drives will take place in school districts. We'll hold our next one at Sac State. And these can be placed anywhere, and they're basically just almost like EV fairs, where we go out and educate the public, give them an opportunity to touch and feel and drive an electric vehicle. And then we have the opportunity when they're in front of us to explain some of the incentive programs. Also, Clean Cars for All, and I think this has had different names over the last few years. Cash for Clunkers, I think, was one of them. Essentially, there are a lot of different incentives to get people to convert to clean mobility, or EVs. But those incentives aren't necessarily getting to the people that can best utilize them. So part of the problem is to get out and kind of disseminate what these are to the right people. One of the main hurdles, too, that we have found is that in the dealership, if the folks are interested in getting to the point of purchasing an EV, there are a lot of dealerships that aren't grooved into what those incentives are, so don't know to share them, or the salespeople aren't educated enough on the technology of EV to want to sell them in the first place. So there are a few hurdles there too to cross, and we're excited to be a part of remedying that here in SAC. And finally, I want to highlight a new project that Dr. Ayala and I have been talking about since November, when this area was hit very hard, reeling effects actually from the Camp Fire. We know that during the most intense week with the air quality numbers off the charts, there were many problems posed that prior to that had not necessarily needed to be addressed. One example, and the one we'll be working on, is the school closure issue. Do we close the schools? Don't we close the schools? And closing the schools, are we asking the students to walk home? What happens when the parents can't take off work to go pick up the kids? What about the kids that depend on meal service at the schools? There were all of these different implications of closing schools that hadn't been prior to vetted. So at this point in time, I know the necessary organizations are working on putting that protocol in place. In the meantime, there will be some critical pieces of information that Breathe California can help with. Mostly, or one of the issues that would come up is the air quality at the school or in the multipurpose room or wherever you're going to send the kids, is it safe? And are you asking students, if you're not going to close the schools, are you asking students to stay indoors to prevent outdoor exposure when, in fact, the indoor air quality isn't safe? And so part of this pilot project with the AQMD is going to take 5 schools within the county, schools are to be determined, and run these assessments. What is the air quality in some of these spaces? Granted, a lot of these schools some of them are newer, some of them are older. We'll have a lot of different data that we'll be looking at. And then what does it mean to create a safe space in these schools? What does that retrofit look like? What kinds of protocols do the schools have in place? What needs to happen should we come across another event like this, another catastrophic event? So it's another project that we're working out the fine-tuned details on. Very excited to be working on this. Breathe California it's been a few years since we worked on indoor air quality, so for us this is something we're very pleased with. And since we already have inroads with the schools, between our tobacco control programs and our air quality work, we are represented in almost every school district here in Sacramento. So I would just like to end today, barring any questions, with thanking the board and the AQMD. We have been very proud over the years to work on the projects that we work on with you. And for us, if the AQMD meets its air quality standards, then we as an organization have delivered an effective blow to one of the leading causes of poor lung health, right, which is air pollution or poor air quality. And in nonprofit ease, you know, we joke around and say, we'll know we're very, very successful when we put ourselves out of business. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate your work, and congratulations on your 3-month new post as CEO for Breathe California. We've got a couple members here signed up to speak real quick, so you're not off the hot seat just yet. I'll go ahead and start off with Board Member Harris and then Vice Chair Frost here.
Thank you, Chair. Stacy, it's great to see you. It's been a little over a year, I guess. Anyway, you know, Breathe California was the progenitor to the Air District, and you know that's a very, very important fact. What your organization did was raise the awareness of the ills of poor air quality. I grew up in LA in the 60s, the time of horrendous smog alerts when children were sent home regularly from school because it was difficult to breathe. I mean, I have very vivid memories of days where it was just you couldn't be anywhere and feel okay. Your allusion to teen psychosis is, of course, of great interest to me. I thought the kids in my class acted funny because of other things they were breathing, but it was the 60s, right?
I did tell you I didn't read the science on that yet.
Anyway, the work you do is really important, and I wanted to thank you for the car share program at River Gardens in my district. All of these things are very important. I've been driving all electric now in my 6th year, and it's definitely the way to go. Electric propulsion has to be the wave of the future if we want to breathe air. See, I also wanted to say that I'm going to put in a plug for the Breathe Bike Trek. So it's coming up in September. It's something that I've participated in a couple of times. It's an incredible amount of fun. And, riding your bike to help educate people about air quality is a really good thing to do. So I would encourage all my colleagues to sign up immediately for the bike trek. It's 3 days up in Petaluma, camp at the KOA, and take amazing bike rides through the countryside. And it's a way to talk about air quality and create a lot of camaraderie and just share, all of the education about the things that you do. So thanks very much for the trek, and I look forward to being there this year.
Thank you. And if you're marking your calendars now, it's September 6th through 8th.
September 6th through 8th. I've got Board Member Frost here, Vice Chair Frost.
Hi, Stacy. Thank you. Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
I have a question relating to your study on indoor air quality with the schools and the selection of the schools. And I wonder if there's a certain criteria that you're using. I know there are some areas where air quality isn't as good just by virtue of the geographic location under a freeway. There's also some of our schools in my district, there are 3 schools close together, so that creates sort of a traffic jam at certain hours of the day, which could, in theory, impact air quality. I'm not sure if that accrues to indoor air quality. And so I just wondered if you could give me an idea of how you're selecting those schools.
So the schools haven't been selected yet. And I am open to anything in the region because truly there isn't going to be a cookie cutter approach here. One school is not, what we can define for one school isn't necessarily going to translate to others. So a wide range of schools would be great. For us, we have inroads with so many schools already that would be a natural fit because the relationships are built and it can go a little faster and the data that we can collect can lead to the next year's expansion. So whether or not we hit every district this year, and with 5 schools we wouldn't be able to, but the idea is that we learn from this year and can expand into future years. But I'd love to chat about your district and what we can do there.
And when you do the indoor air quality monitoring, are you doing outdoor at the same time? So we're seeing if what's happening outdoor is impacting indoor? Or?
That's a good question, and those details haven't been fine-tuned yet. We know we're doing the indoor assessments. It makes sense to draw the comparison of outdoor air quality, and so we'll be talking about those. So there's more detail to come on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Frost. Board Member Terry.
Just as a former school board member and knowing that the difference in ventilation systems that a lot of older schools compared to newer schools have, hopefully, because I mean, there's still schools in this region that have window units for classrooms, and the protocols for something like that compared to, like, for the newer schools, it's almost safer to have kids at schools in a classroom with a central air system to where it's filtering the same air within the room instead of sucking it in from the outside. So one of the kind of unique things that I saw was you had whole school districts, turning it, sending all of their kids home when honestly, a lot of the kids were safer at school than being at home. And so hopefully you get a decent sampling of different systems that are out there in the region, because again, a school, for example, the Met down here by Southside Park, is probably a school that we shouldn't have kids in because, as far as I remember, they still have window units there. So again, hopefully we're taking that into account.
I think part of it too is I would imagine that one of the results of the other conversations that are occurring too is, does each school need to have that safe space? And then what does what you're talking about look like for each school?
Great.
I'll add a couple things. As Stacy said, Ms. Springer, the study design is still work in progress. We haven't finalized. And what we're trying to do is really not interject ourselves and tell schools what to do, but rather recognize the fact that there is information out there that they are getting themselves, right? They are buying monitors, and they are putting them inside and outside. And they are looking at numbers, and that is where people like Breathe and us come in, because then they're calling us and saying, what does this mean? So what we want to bring is simply a little more order and a deliberate approach to what the schools can do, with the ultimate goal of being a school decision as to what to do, because precisely we face that situation. People saying they're better off coming to school, and here's the reason why, and then in other cases, they're better off at home. So what we are trying to do is basically be realistic to the fact that people have access to information. We live in a time of technology, and you can, push a button and get a number. And what we're trying to do is really empower the schools with information that is relevant, that is actually grounded on not only what it means. We can measure air pollution levels, but people like Breathe California can come in and tell the schools what it means for the kids.
Yeah, and another great partner that you might want to look at is Child Action. And talking with daycare providers throughout the region. I know the confusion at my child's daycare around using our app, and the fact that it's about 90 minutes behind. And we talked a lot about this, and the fact that you had parents that were looking at the news in the morning and thinking, my kid shouldn't be outside at any point today, yet they're letting kids out to play because they're checking the app. So again, even down to that level where it's even, our younger kids that are probably even more at danger. But we have a really large, great partner in Child Action in Sacramento.
I got an item in the APCO report that relates to new legislation, AB 661, that is really the backdrop for this. What the Breathe is doing for us is one element of a broader strategy, so we'll talk a little bit about it.
Great, thank you very much. And speaking about this coordination about how we get that information, I do want to recognize Board Member Hansen's work on that, and he's punched up to speak as well. So, Board Member Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. And I just wanted to follow up, Alberto, you sort of presaged that, and I don't know if all the board members will be here for your report, but this AB 661 is really important because we try to help drive down particulate pollution, ozone creating pollution through mobile source, stationary source, but sometimes we're affected by things that are outside of our control, wildfires in particular. And last year, we really felt the brunt, not as much as the community certainly that were directly impacted, but our air quality was really bad. And there wasn't a lot of clear guidance on what to do. And I have a feeling that given the rapid pace of climate change and the worldwide sort of resistance to facing that we're going to have to be more prepared for events like that. And so, Alberto, I just want to thank you for your work on AB 661, which is being authored by Assemblymember McCarty, to help our air district, and hopefully others will want to model that, to do some planning with other agencies to prepare for inundation events where it's not really a mobile or stationary source, it is a natural event that has caused a potential disaster for public health. And we just need to be more prepared than we were before. And I hope we sponsor that bill. I hope that Breathe supports it. I think overall it's a good step in the right direction, and we'll hear more about it later. But thank you.
Thank you, Board Member.
And Mr. Harris, I may join the ride this year, but I just have some concerns about spandex, and we can talk more later.
You'll be in good company.
Duly noted for the record.
Concerns in you wearing it or me?
The latter and the former.
Just keep digging.
Oh, geez. Okay. On to new business here. So I want to thank Stacy for your commitment to air quality and Breathe California, particularly in Sacramento. I also want to thank you for your participation in Clean Air Day, which is October 2nd. So mark your calendars, and there's a lot of more information to come on that. And also, for your participation in multiple issues. I know Board Member Cerna and Board Member Carr were instrumental in making sure that we look at disadvantaged communities for the electric car share program, and obviously the participation with our former school board member Terry here and Board Member Hanson. And there isn't a bigger EV advocate that I've met than Board Member Harris over here. So thank you for your participation and a great presentation here. And since there are no more speakers here, let's just give her a big round of applause for Breathe California's work. Okay, and more of that information to come in the Air Pollution Control Officer's report, but we're going to go ahead and move to the closed session item here, and we'll adjourn briefly for closed session, and we'll re-adjourn afterwards to continue with the agenda. Okay, we're going to call reconvene at 9:41 here in open session. I don't think we need a roll call, do we? No. Okay, good. And our next item on the, if the clerk could please read the next item, actually. Oh, my apologies. Could we get a report out from closed session?
The board approved settlement parameters in 2 cases.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Appreciate that. Okay, now I'll ask the clerk if they could read the next item.
Mike.
The next item on the calendar is the Air Pollution Control Officer's report.
Dr. Ayala, your show.
Segura, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Good morning, board members. Thank you for entertaining hearing about a few exciting efforts that the district is working on. I'm going to make it quick, and again, similar to previous APCO reports. These are informational items intended to keep you up to date and current on some of the things that we're working on. The first one, Ms. Springer already alluded to, and I think you're familiar with the incentive program portfolio that we at the district are building. The first thing I'll say is thank you, because you can see that this is quite a bit of a significant amount of funding that we are planning to put to work to get some very good and needed emission reductions in the next fiscal year. Thanks to our efforts pretty much on all fronts. You can see that we have a very nice collection of incentive programs, different programs I will not go into the details unless you require information, but basically the bottom line is we are very much looking forward to putting into our portfolio programs next year on the order of about $40 million. And again, these are going to be monies that are going to be coming to businesses that want to participate and help us get emission reductions. And you can see at the bottom in small print the type of project that we are anticipating doing. Obviously, the type of project is a function of the program guidelines. They vary slightly per program, but in general, we're looking at zero emission school buses, electrification of school buses, electrification of other vehicles. We want to deploy infrastructure, both for charging electric vehicles. And my big hope is that at some point in time, we also talk about fueling infrastructure in terms of hydrogen fueling capability for fuel cell power plants in vehicles. The propulsion system would be a fuel cell. Obviously, we have a big ag sector in the region, so we also work on cleaning up ag tractors and construction equipment and locomotives, what have you. So again, I just wanted to give you a flavor, and you've heard us in the past talk a lot about how we as a region need to do better to make sure that we get the monies that we need to get to emission reductions. And clearly, again, thanks to many of you who have been knocking on doors and walking the halls of the Capitol and what have you, and our board member, Phil Cerna, who's on the ARB board. Thank you for your support as far as making the case for our region as well. We'll keep you posted as we deploy these projects. The next action item, or the next item that we want to brief you on is again something that was alluded to earlier. PM pollution continues to be the single most challenging aspect of our region, not only because of the health effects, but because we continue to hover so close to the standard. And I want to be able to get a little bit of a headspace in terms of that standard. And Check Before You Burn was a season that obviously was completed. We thank you, and we continue to impress upon you how important it is that you help us get the word out when the season is in force.
Okay, we have Board Member Cerna here with the question. Dr. Ayala?
Thank you. So under the complaints received there's 152 that are noted. Do you have a breakdown as to how many of those are associated with prescribed burns?
I'm going to ask Ms. Amy Roberts to see if she's got that detail.
These complaints are, for the majority of them, they would be related directly to somebody burning in a neighborhood on a no-burn day.
So none of them are, for instance, associated with Metro Fire District doing their seasonal prescribed burns in the American River Parkway?
These are for the season between November through February.
Okay.
And so those would be excluded.
Got it. All right.
Thank you, Board Member Cerna. I also have Board Member Natoli.
Yeah, just a quick question. As you noted here that many of the days, the curtailment days, occurred during the Paradise, in the campfire.
Right.
If we had exceedances in those days under the rules we operate under, we've documented that, again, it wasn't due to folks burning in their fireplaces, because I know we've had these events and we've seen more catastrophic events, and again, it was tremendously terrible for folks in those areas. But how does that work, Alberto, just very briefly, or Amy?
Yeah, so I think what you're getting at is the fires, as bad as they are, and we set record pollution, but the federal process has a mechanism so that they don't count against us.
Okay.
I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
There's a process, we have to document it, we work with other districts, what have you, we work with the state on this, but essentially there is recognition that there are some things that we just don't have control over.
That aren't our
and
control, that they're tremendously tragic,
exactly.
and we had that a few summers ago, I know, and those June fires. So we have to document that, because to your point about being so close, and obviously having an effective program on the Check Before You Burn and enforcing that to the degree that we can. I just want to be sure we don't get dinged and then we show exceedances and somehow we're out of compliance.
Correct.
Because we didn't have any control over it at all. Neither did anybody else, and we've been fortunate if it hadn't happened to begin with. But.
Correct. There is a very sensible approach in terms of there is recognition that we do have control over some sources, others don't, and there is a process for us to follow.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Natoli.
Okay. The next one is an exciting item, also an FYI. As we speak, there is a delegation from the Sacramento region led by Mayor Steinberg, who is in China at the moment. There's 25 leaders from our region on a trade mission there. The reason I want to point this out for you is because we have representation in that 25-member delegation. Mr. Jaime Lemos, who's our acting director for our transportation group, is actually on the ground there with the mayor. And why are we participating? What's in it for an air district? One of the topics that the mayor wants to discuss with our Chinese counterparts is smart mobility. So that has to do, again, with zero-emission vehicles, with autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles that are coming. We hear a lot about shared vehicles. So this is really future mobility that I know that you've been talking about and hearing a lot about. And again, we continue to believe that there are things that we can do at the local level with our own policies, your rules, regulations, incentives, for example, where we can, as I say, provide the guardrails so that whatever happens with this technology that is going to happen, it ends up being a net environmental benefit for us. So pretty exciting, and I'm pleased that we were able to send Mr. Lemos on the delegation. We'll bring back a report when they get back from China next week. And speaking of mobility, just wanted to share with you that as a reminder, I know that some of you are actually on the commission, but there is a very significant effort regionally, from my perspective, the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change. West Sacramento and Sacramento, the commission just met. I unfortunately missed the meeting. I was out of town. Maybe Mr. Hansen, Director Hansen, can provide some perspective on it. But the significance of it is really that it becomes a platform, very useful platform for people like us to bring to the forefront the issues that are going to be important for clean air and low carbon development. I'll stop there. Maybe Director Hansen wants to.
Board Member Hansen, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Ayala, you missed a great meeting. The technical advisory committees reported out on a bunch of their ideas, but what really impressed people, and the commission has Dr. Nelson on it from Sac State. It has Arlen Orchard, Michael Teal from Rayleigh's. It's really a top-notch group, including yourself, Doctor. But the presentation from Oakland on how they did cost-benefit analysis on recommendations and really engaged the community proactively to lead the process, I think was the most transformational piece of the meeting. Because a lot of the work our technical assistance groups did was without reference to potential cost or benefit for their ideas. And I think the next stage will be to sort of refine that process, but it was really good.
Thank you, and again, thank you for your engagement. I mean, the commission, I think about it in terms of it's the great glue that brings a lot of us together. We've been talking about this for a long time, and just to remind you, the target is very clear. We want to get to carbon zero in 2045. So the task for us in the region is, can we actually develop a plan to get there? So we'll keep you posted on this. Another thing, and I'll look to our chair to add his perspective on this, I simply just wanted to highlight this very neat and important event that took place not long ago, and it was really Senator Pan who led the effort. He's got a Million Meal Summer program in the region, and where we come in, again, we want to make sure that we bring, to the extent that we can, these proof of concept solutions that are zero emissions. And specifically, we are working to bring to the school program a zero emission food truck, so that, whether it's a commercial entity or a school, what have you, that you begin to prove that, these technologies can be the solution for many applications, including food trucks. And, the benefit, the credit goes to our staff who, when we get there, I'm confident we're going to get there. It's going to be the very first food truck in the nation and presumably in the world that actually proves a zero-emission vehicle concept.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ayala. And this is obviously where there are many kids who go hungry during the summer, and the concept here was about well-being, and obviously kids need to have good, be able to eat and have good meals and health, and Board Member Cerner has been working on that. Good water. we're always looking at water quality, but they have to breathe too. So the ensuring that we look at, it's nice to have maybe a taco truck that's electrified, but that's my preference. But but it's the commercial application of a mid-sized commercial vehicle that has a number of pieces of equipment in there, and I think that application is showing that you can have a piece of equipment that can be electrified and is meeting our goals is the big piece, while also doing the outreach with young folks to making sure that we're providing meals for them.
And again, I need to recognize this is cap and trade at work, right? These are what the investments that the state is generating at the local level. It's allowing us to experiment. It's allowing us to look for solutions that without the funding, we just couldn't. So that is really why it's important for us, to my previous point, to try to be progressive and aggressive to try to generate the funding so that we can, begin to test out these solutions for our communities. And speaking of reaching the world, this is again just an FYI. I had the fortune of had been invited to do a keynote lecture at an air quality conference in Colombia last week, and that's one of the reasons I missed the Climate Commission. And again, I just want to highlight this for you because the world is watching us. They're very interested in the California experiment. What are we doing to try to be the bright light, if you will, that is going to put us on the path to clean air and sustainability. And for us, it's great to go and share our experience in terms of what are we doing, how are we making progress in clean air, and also, frankly, to learn. I brought back a lot of ideas that are very relevant of things that we want to try because we haven't, and there are very talented and passionate and very capable people in our counterparts in many other places around the world that have some solutions that will apply to us. And I think it's just fantastic and great that we can continue to foster this international collaboration. So I think, for you, again, we should be proud that, air districts and the state and others get the attention that we do get. And the last thing I'll talk about is, we alluded to already, is AB 661. And again, I do want to thank and recognize Director Hansen for his leadership. We basically jumped in front of an issue that we know is going to happen again, and the difficulty is we just don't know when it's going to happen. We know it's coming, we know that the next fire is right around the corner, and we just want to prepare. And we have been very pleased with the engagement and the interest, the interaction that Assemblymember McCarty has shown in the topic. He does have a bill currently in the process. Our intent is to make it a regional pilot. We want to try out some of these ideas for better communication, better coordination, some of the technology with the sensors at the schools, at other places. We want to make sure that we can notify employers in the region in terms of the information of, what does it mean when you get X outdoor pollution and Y indoor pollution? What do you do in those cases? So this is really about that, about just getting better coordination and messaging, and becoming clear in terms of when anybody has a question, who do they call? So we're pleased and have the support of our health officer. I want to recognize Dr. Kasiri, the office of Director Hansen. Breathe talked a little bit about this. So we're just getting started. Again, the bill is in the process. We are anticipating a hearing, and we'll keep you posted. But as Director Hansen said, I think what I want to work towards, and I'll work with the council and the clerk in terms of process, we do want to have a formal endorsement from this board. So whether it's being a sponsor or just being supportive of the bill, Assemblymember McCarty was responsive to our need, and I think we need to step up and say, yeah, this is something important for us.
Great, thank you, Dr. Ayala. I've got a couple board members punched up to speak, and I do want to make some comments after those about about process. Board Member Hansen, and then we have Board Member Cerna after that.
Thank you, Mr.